Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds podcast. I'm James. I'm joined by Benji. Hello, Benji.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Zach. Hello, Zach.
You're right.
I'm not going to ask you how you're doing. I don't care. It's been a while, but we're going to chat. And first topic today is going to be about the 100. And we're not going to go into specific games, but I think the main thing I'll kind of gauge from you guys is whether you think it's good for the game overall. So I'm going to just intro it to some of our maybe overseas listeners that don't really know what it's about, or people that haven't yet really given it a go. It's shorter than a T20. It's 100 balls. So they don't do it in overs. They do it in 5-ball sets. The whole sort of scorecard on the screen is quite simplified, and it's basically just a more accessible and faster form of cricket. So far, it's been really quite entertaining. There have been very high quality players in it, and Trent Rockets are the best, which is good.
Apparently, yeah.
Boys. So Ben, what do you think about the 100?
I've really enjoyed it. I've watched pretty much every game so far, the women's and the men's. I think it's great for the game, to be honest. I think it's broadening cricket to that wider audience. It's making it accessible for people like my housemates who've never watched cricket and hate it, have been watching it and have been getting excited when I've had it on TV on Sky Sports. So yeah, I think it's awesome for the game. I think the fact that it's the same league as well and the same teams, especially for men's and women's, I think is just good for cricket as a whole. And yeah, it's going to be awesome to get sort of this new younger generation inspired. And I would love right now to organise a 100 ball game because it just looks so much fun, like with the new tactics and stuff. So I might get on that actually. I might try and get our midweek side to do a 100 ball game against someone.
None of these 8-ball, 15
15 8s. We're going to do a 100 ball game.
Yeah,
that's
love
it.
That. What are your thoughts, Zach?
It is very accessible, I think, to everyone, and it's really good for the English game because when you think about Australia, have the Big Bash, that's their franchise. The Indian Premier League, that's their franchise cricket. We don't really have franchise cricket, and I think having the 100 ball competition is something fresh. It's bringing in the big names, and I think that's really good for English cricket. However, at the same time, it's also bad for English cricket because it's kind of pushing the county system to one side, and there are mixed feelings around the cricket community about whether the 100 actually is having a bad effect, whilst it's bringing in new people to the game, which is always a positive thing. It's also pushing aside the county system, which has been doing really well. Like at the moment, there's also a 50 over competition going on, and yeah, it's kind of no one's really following it at all. Yeah.
Thing is that the Royal London Cup got delayed a bit because of COVID, so that wouldn't normally be going on at this time of year. And I think to counteract that point about it being bad for English cricket, I think for the young players who maybe wouldn't play international, don't play in the big franchise leagues. I'm thinking like your Matt Parkinson, your sort of Jake Balls. I mean, I know he's had some international cricket. The guys that do quite well in the T20 Blast, I think it's really good for those guys because they're getting exposed to these top quality, best in the world players, which they wouldn't normally see, and you don't really see too many of them in the Blast or even in the county setup. So I think it's great for some of these young English cricketers who they're just maybe taking this next step and getting exposed to a bit more class. So I mean, yeah, I think obviously there's pros and cons to it, but I think overall it's going to be a great thing for cricket as a whole.
Yeah, and it is great to watch, and the atmosphere at Trent Bridge when we went the other day was amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to go in a few weeks' time.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to think about is a bit away off, but it's the Ashes down under in Australia. And currently there are talks going on about some of the England players not maybe wanting to go to the Ashes because if you aren't aware, in Australia, the COVID rules are very strict. And so some of the English players are thinking, well, we've got the 2020 World Cup, we've got the IPL coming up if we're going. There's lots of these big tournaments going on, and if we go to Australia and we're not allowed to take our families, that's a lot of time away from them. Should we go or not? Now that makes us think, well, England probably already going to lose down under, but if the likes of, I don't know, Jofra Archer isn't going to the Ashes, that could be a massive blow for England.
I'd say Australia need to think about it. Like they need to think, like Cricket Australia need to have words with their governing body to sort it out, because I think it's perfectly reasonable for some of those English players to say, look, if we're going to be, representing our country, this isn't just franchise stuff now. So bubble fatigue for the 2020 World Cup, and then pretty much going straight into the Ashes, and you're barely going to see your family. Some of these players, they've got young kids. They're missing out on the childhood. And I know this is one of those things where it's like, you sign up for it when you become an international cricketer, but also if you could do the Ashes in the UK and still be able to bring your families over, if the Aussies came over, they could bring their families. So we're at this point where either Australia need to sort of have a little think about what they're going to do here, or the Ashes are going to happen later. I don't see how they're going to go on if all of our players drop out. I think the only person I've seen that is pro playing, without any sort of family and everything is Don Bess, who's 23 and he has no kids. So, like, I think it's unreasonable to assume that the English players should play away from home for however many months without seeing their families.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a dire situation there in Australia. Actually, like I think there was a news article the other day that said that they've extended their lockdown by another month in Sydney. I mean, there's not going to be a test in Sydney until sort of the fourth test, I think, for the Ashes. But yeah, it would be a massive shame if, again, like after such a positive Ashes in 2019, and the England side going from strength to strength, maybe aside from the test team, but it's a bit of a shame to see that not happening, especially with the spectacle that the Ashes is. And we wait for it. It comes in a few waves, and then you have to wait for it for another couple of years. So yeah, it would be a massive shame if they didn't. And I think, I echo your point. It would be fantastic for sort of Cricket Australia to try and work out how to do some sort of bubble friendly, bringing in extra bits of family. I think it's only right that they try and do that.
You hear the players all the time at the end of a game, if they've played well, they'll say, oh, when I scored my century and I looked up and saw my wife there, or I saw my kids there, and I did it for them. And and you've seen it in the Olympics without their families there, it is really tough on them. Like AB de Villiers in the IPL, I think his wife was she was allowed to be part of the Royal Challengers Bangalore bubble, and that was really good for him and why he stayed on playing. And I think they need their families there. And I guess if they're not allowed to bring their families and some of them pull out, Australia would want the best players for England playing against them. And as spectators, we want to see the best players playing against the best players. So yeah, it would be a shame if they can't make it.
So assuming that Cricket Australia sort it out, they can have all the English families there. Benji, what's your ideal England 11?
I want to see what happens in the India test. I like to have a look at. So I'm not going to give you a very straight answer, to be honest. Surprise, surprise. I'd like to have a look at Hamid. I hope that he opens at least one game in this test series. And then one of Burns or Sibley, depending on form. Crawley at 3, Root holds that 4 spot. Stokes 5 would be ideal. Pope 6, Butler 7. Then you've got your bowlers, and the bowlers could be whoever at this point. There's a massive squad around that. I think probably on the dry Australian pitches, you want pace, so Jofra, you want Mark Wood and probably Ollie Robinson, with maybe a spinner thrown in there as well. Dom Best, Jack Leach, one of those two. But I think it really depends on how we get on in this India series now. I'm very much looking forward to next Wednesday when we're all going to be there at Trent Bridge. So, yeah, hope that rolls on. And, yeah, have a look at the new the current side.
Brilliant stuff.
What would your team be, Zach?
For me, well, I think 1, 2, and 3 is the difficult bit, isn't it? Because they've got 4 is obviously Root. 5, 6, and 7, you could have any players. You could have Butler, Bairstow, Folkes, Stokes, Pope, Lawrence. There's loads of different players who can play in those positions. Whereas the top 3, other than, well, you've probably got, well, it's definitely Sibley, Burns, and Crawley are in there, and then there's Hamid and maybe David Milan. And that's
I'd like to see Milan back. I'd like to see him. He performed so well in Australia last time he was there. I think Milan could be the dark horse of the Ashes if he's called up.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll get a game in the India series.
No.
Yeah, but just wait and see.
Good stuff. Well, how about we call it a day? We'll be back again, slightly quicker than we were last time. So if you like what you see, give us a like. Please subscribe. Follow us on all social medias. We're at Cricket Nerds Pod, and we'll see you guys very soon.